hello there again. So far in our course, The Changing Global Order, we have dealt mainly with states and with international regional organizations. Of course, other actors, like non-state actors, could also be quite influential. So today, I'm very happy to introduce to you Professor Edwin Bakker, who is also the director of the Center for Terrorism and Counterterrorism at the campus The Hague of Leiden University. Very much welcome today to our interview.
Thank you.
Professor Bakker, let us start with asking the general question. Do you think we tend to underestimate the role and importance of non-state actors in global affairs?
Yeah, I think so, especially if you look in the field of security studies. It's non-state actors that dominate the agenda, especially terrorist organizations, but also think of large criminal networks, very international global criminal networks that in some cases really run parts of countries or whole countries. So in my area of study, security studies, non-state actors, of course in particular terrorist organizations, are one of the most important actors to study.
Of course, when we saw the events of 9/11, the world really realized how important such major attacks and major organizations can actually be. Could you tell us a little bit about what happens in the medium term after these attacks?
Well, I think everybody was shocked, not only in the United States, of the power of such organization, that they are capable of killing 3,000 persons in one day. So there was this awareness that we have to deal with this problem, and we have to deal with it together, because it's a worldwide global phenomenon and many countries face similar threats or exactly the same threat. So there was this understanding that global cooperation is needed, and initially it went quite well. There was this global coalition against terrorism, but it gradually changed, especially when this idea or concept of a war against terrorism was introduced, especially by the United States. A number of countries started to openly disagree and say, well, this is not the way we want to tackle this problem. Nonetheless, because of the general understanding that we need to deal with this problem by working together, a lot of progress has been made. There's a lot of cooperation, mainly on the bilateral level between countries that have similar ideas on how to tackle this problem or are confronted with the same threats, but also at the regional level as well as at the global level.
Actually, talking about the global level, it seems that the United Nations and maybe its Security Council would be kind of the place to come to common approaches and to find measures that would be applicable globally. What is the progress so far, and maybe what are the obstacles?
Well, initially, immediately after 9/11, I think the UN played an important role. Secretary General tried to reach consensus also about the definition of terrorism, but there it also gradually started to go wrong in the sense that there's disagreement, for instance, about the idea of what is terrorism. And one person's terrorist is the other person's freedom fighter. So countries found it difficult to agree on what is actually terrorism. At the same time, there is some agreement that we have to deal with this in a holistic way, with a holistic strategy, and the UN developed a global counterterrorism strategy that is supported by most countries. So there is a role, maybe more on the conceptual level, but once it gets more specific, then the differences between the different member states makes it very difficult to agree on the UN level.
Some people have actually argued that if we look at root causes of terrorism, we should also focus on issues such as poverty or actually unemployment. So if we are starting to target such major fields, do you think there could be improvements in terms of the risk that people will actually join terrorist organizations?
Well, I think it's a good thing to try to eradicate poverty and to raise the levels of education. And it has been put forward after 9/11 that that's the way forward. And there was a lot of agreement on that, also at the global level, and the UN could have played an important role there. But as a scholar in the field of terrorism studies, I have to point at the fact that poverty is not a root cause of terrorism. There's no direct causal link between poverty and terrorism. And I think it would be a good idea to try to eradicate poverty and to raise educational levels. but it not necessarily is very helpful to reduce terrorism. And I'm also a bit hesitant to use, for instance, the counterterrorism bandwagon or under the counterterrorism flag, try to get more attention for these problems. These problems are important on their own, and we don't need to link it to terrorism or counterterrorism. We simply have to do that. We'll make the world a better place, maybe reduce terrorism a little bit, but it would not be my strategy to try to really make sure that we are safer against terrorism.
So what would you think should we expect and can we expect in terms of global approaches to fight this problem in the medium term or long-term future?
Well, I think that like-minded countries have already shown that they can cooperate. I think it has to be on a basis of trust and voluntary. Countries have to really want to cooperate, so you can't have an international organization or one state trying to dominate others, saying this is the way we have to do it. But a lot of progress has been made, so I see a lot of progress at a regional level, bilateral level. I think gradually we also have learned from more than 12 years after 9/11, best practices and also things that have gone wrong. So I hope that gradually, even at a global level, this idea of a global counter-terrorism strategy will help other countries to develop smarter policy. So I'm pretty confident that we have learned a lot, and that cooperation has helped us to make this world a little bit more safe against terrorism.
Thank you very much. Actually, many of these issues have also been discussed in your own MOOC on terrorism and counterterrorism. For you students, it may be interesting to know that there will be reruns of this course with Professor Bakker. So thank you very much for this very, very insightful interview, and we hope to see you soon again.
Thank you.